I'm sorry I'm starting so late. I was distracted by the baby. So thank you for coming. This is a fantastic turnout, and thank you, Pinder, for offering to do this session. This was his idea. It was he's very generous. I'm excited for a couple of reasons, and one, Pinder has given me the okay to share this, but so we haven't done a listing presentation session since, it predates me. The last one I remember was, I watched it online, Alex was hosting with Rob Kelly, I think it was 2021, 2020? Yeah, so it's been a few years, so I'm very grateful that Pinder has offered to do this. And one of the reasons why I'm excited, so I started here at the beginning of 2022, and Pinder was already one of our top producers by volume. But one of the things, one of the parts about his business that was a little less stable were his commission structures were all over the place. So some people paid a certain rate, and some people were heavily discounted, and I have never seen anybody turn that around as effectively as him. And a big part of that was the listing presentation, because that's where the commissions come up, which you'll see in round 2, probably.
It was having a good manager that did it.
No, that was before me? So we will get started. So the way we're going to try and run it today is we're just going to do a quick introduction, and we're going to go through what his presentation looks like, and it's going to be seamless and easy, unless he gets flustered and is nervous. I won't have a lot of objections. So save your questions for the end, and I will too, and then we'll run through it a second time where I will give some of the objections that I used to have, or some of the objections that some of you are sharing with me when you're talking to clients, and we'll make it a little bit tougher. And I'm not always creative. I spent all my creativity on those emails that got you here. So you guys can also interrupt with some objections if you want, and then we'll just do a quick Q&A. Sound good? Do you have anything you want to add?
Just thank you everybody for coming, and I hope you find it helpful. I think the main thing I wanted to make sure was that you guys are going to see exactly how I would if I walked into a home. So not holding back. I'm going to try to make it shorter than I usually do, because I make it very long-winded when I'm at the client's house, but I'll try to go through it a little bit quicker than I do in the actual meetings. And then, yeah, we're going to try to have Jason kind of put me through the ringer afterwards. We didn't want to make that first presentation so long with all the objections. I'll try to get through the whole presentation so you get that idea, and then we'll go through some of the more creative stuff. And yeah, don't judge our acting skills as we start.
All right, so I'm going to... Oh, hello, Pinder.
Oh, hi, Jason. Thanks so much for having me at your house.
No problem. Come on in.
Usually take off my shoes because we're Canadian, but thanks.
Right. Do you want to sit on the couch or the chair?
Actually, I'd prefer the table if you don't mind. I got a really bad back. I'm getting older.
All right.
Let's head on over here.
How dare you?
So I see you have the presentation. So we'll take a quick break here before we start. I will pass it around after. There's nothing to hide. We're going to pretend that Jason was a stranger. He might have seen a for sale sign. I don't know him from before. He called me and he said, I'm thinking about selling my house. I would have prepared this the same day, and within 24 hours it's on his door. Okay? And 9 out of 10 times I walk into the listing presentation, he's called me since, hey, I got your presentation, it was amazing. Can you come in, tomorrow morning? So here we are. I walk in, I can usually see the presentation. It's usually on the counter, it's on the coffee table, it's somewhere there, it's within my eyesight. So here's the presentation. So I see you've gotten the presentation, that's great. So tell me a little bit, how's your day, man? How's it going?
Not bad, just got home, tried to tidy up and clean up before you got here.
Okay.
As you can see, it's spotless.
Yes, absolutely beautiful, and I never judge. I don't expect you to have the house ready for me. I just want to go over a few things with you today.
I hope you don't mind if my kids watch.
No. How old are they? How old are they? That's great. So usually, there'd be a little bit more small talk, and then I've always said, they got kids or pets, that's the way to their heart. You can bring a gift for the client, they're not going to remember, but if I'm nice to their kid, I sign his cast, I pet the dog a little bit, it's much more memorable. Okay, so we'll skip a little bit of the small talk and be like, so, Jason, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, so don't worry, but I'm going to go over a few important things, if that's okay with you. Okay? So here you're going to get to know a little bit about me, why you should have an agent, but I want to get right into what's important. What do you want to know? You want to know what your house is worth, right? So let's talk a little bit about pricing. Okay, so we've got a pyramid here. So we talk about pricing it at market value. Okay, you get about 60% of the buyers. Now, you've likely seen this, especially during COVID, is when they were listing the properties much less than it's worth, and you're getting a lot more buyers and you're trying to get into a bidding war. As you're likely aware, today's market, that's not really what's working. Now, the other thing, I'm not a big fan of this, and I'll tell you why. Agents will tell you the good stuff. Sold over asking, I got 200,000 over, look at me, I'm a star, right? Looks great when it works. Has anybody ever talked to you about what happens when it doesn't work?
No.
Right. No. So let's say we list your home, we underprice it, Thursday comes, we're hosting offers, either we get no offers or all the offers are not what you want. So now on Friday I get a call from an agent. How do you think that call is going to go?
I don't know.
Okay, no leverage. There's no leverage, because so did you get any offers last night? No. Okay, are they going to pay me top price? They're not going to give me that. They're going to kick us while we're down. So we have done this successfully, doesn't mean we can't do it. If this is something the client wants to do, we know how to do it, and we've done it effectively. But it's my duty to let you know that this is not working in today's market for the most part, and what the risk is. So I'm not the type of guy that likes to take too much risk. On that note, if you go up here and you're overpricing your home, that doesn't work either. We've cut down a good chunk of the buyers, and the house is going to sit. It's going to get stale, it's going to sit on the market, and what do we think when we see these houses? What's wrong with that house? That's not the house that somebody wants to put an offer, let alone a good price. Okay? So in today's market, I like right here is just above market. So we're going to reverse engineer. We're going to look at, okay, what do we want for this home? We're going to give a little bit of padding. Nobody today wants to pay full price. Everybody wants a deal, right? The news is telling us market is garbage, prices are down. Who's going to come in and pay us full price? So we want to leave a little bit of room just above what we want, above market value, so we have that room for negotiation. Okay? So do you have any questions about the strategy here?
Not about the strategy.
Okay.
Just about the price.
The actual price. So we will get to that. We'll definitely get to that. The next thing I find that most people want to know is what is it going to cost, right? So you'll see here, the total is 5%. 2.5 comes to us. 2.5 goes to the buying agent. Okay? Now, this covers everything we're going to go through in the presentation, so you don't have to try to remember that. Everything else we offer I'm going to talk about is included. There's absolutely no surprises.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I will point out there's HST on that commission, okay? Now, we go to get this house ready, okay? Cleaning. Your house is already absolutely spotless, as you mentioned, but I find it's a stressful time. We will bring our cleaners through, not because your house is not clean. As we put you through the ringer, you're gonna want somebody else to come in and scrub the toilets to get it ready. Okay, declutter. Now, something that's really nice, we're gonna come through. We're gonna take photos for you, we're gonna make notes for you, we're gonna tell you exactly what to do. Tell you this picture needs to come down, that needs to come off the counter. You don't have to worry, we'll give you all that homework. And it's not a lot, we'll actually help you with that. Okay? Any minor repairs? We've got good people, we can come in. For example, I noticed the trim is missing on the door in the entryway. My guy will come in, no cost to you, that's including the commission. We'll repair that for you. If there's something, as we do a walkthrough later, that I feel is a bit more major, that's not really in the budget, that's the only time you'll have something that's above and beyond the commission, but you'll get a clear communication.
Okay.
I'll put an email for you as well, so you know, hey, we need to replace that toilet that doesn't flush or whatever it may be, and that's not included. You'll know what the cost is and whether you want to take that on. Okay? Now, staging. Your house is absolutely beautiful, but we stage almost every listing. Okay? It might just be a couple pillows, or it might be, hey, I need to take out your whole dining set. We're going to move all your couches. Sometimes we do whole homes. What I want to point out, my house doesn't look like any of my listings. If you go there now, there's toys everywhere, it's a mess. Nothing wrong with your home. But we know a certain look that gets us more buyers and gets us more price. Okay, so you may see stuff, I like your home is cozy, but we're probably going to trade out some of the wood. We use a lot of glass, a lot of neutral colors. We want to make it look big. We want it to look that somebody can come in and see a blank canvas. Okay, but that's something that's included. We have professional movers, and if you do need, we will take your stuff and we'll put it in storage. So you don't got to worry, we take all that on our heads and we'll make it look absolutely amazing. Okay, now we want to get this ready and we want to get it on the market. Every agent is going to put on MLS. One thing that's slightly different with us, we're going to actually have it on 2 boards. Okay, so there's a secondary board. It's kind of like a letter C. You're going anywhere from Barrie, St. Catharines, Guelph, all the way down to, let's say Stony Creek. Now, most people in Mississauga are not part of that board, because you don't need to be. We're not necessarily doing activities or transactions in that area. What if there's a buyer who needs to move here to Mississauga? They just had a baby, they want to be close to grandma, maybe they had a job change. There could be something that makes them want to come. They're not going to see your listing. Now, you may have noticed on Realtor.ca, you ever seen a house listed twice?
Yeah.
Right? And you think, what the heck, this guy messed up. No. If you look at the MLS number, one probably starts with a letter, and the next one starts with a number. They have it on 2 boards. Okay? So as a benefit too, the other thing is it now goes online twice as much. So everywhere we're sharing this information, it's doubling the number of eyes that are going to hit that listing. Okay? So that's a little something we do that's different. Now, we'll do virtual tours, we'll do online, proactive. Anybody can say proactive, right? We'll be able to prove this to you, but let me tell you a couple ideas. Okay? We're going to door knock the area. We're going to make sure everybody knows. Now I'm going to admit something to you. I don't do it. Okay? I've been doing this for too long. I'm getting old. We got a great team. Jacob, Prashant, the young guys on the team, they're going to go knock the doors, make sure everybody in the neighborhood knows. Okay? Another thing we're going to do, we're going to check the stats. Now I know this neighborhood very well. We're going to see who else is a big player. Okay? We're going to contact them ahead of time. We're going to gas them up a little bit, right? We're going to hit their egos and say, hey, I know you're the one that does most of the business in this neighborhood. I want you to know this lovely man, Jason, has a listing coming up next week. If you want to come see it on Tuesday, we're doing photos on Wednesday. I'd like to give you the first chance to bring in your buyers. Okay, so we're going to be doing things that are out of the ordinary. Then, like most agents, we'll go through our catalog and database, make sure everybody knows and things of that sort, but we're going to do some things that maybe other people don't. Okay, now, print brochures. We do those. We also have virtual brochures that happened over COVID, and we find that really works, but we still do like to have the print in home. And then we've got online ads. So the difference here between the online and the social media I'm doing myself, okay? The online ads, I'm paying somebody else who specializes and knows exactly how to target those ads. So you're gonna get the best of both worlds. And then we still do believe in print. That's gonna go in mailboxes, just listed cards, things of that sort. Okay, now, as I mentioned, all of this is included. You don't have to worry about it, but you'll know that we're gonna do all the marketing. Okay, now as we get ready to get on the market, I don't wanna kick you out of your own house. Okay, I can't force you, but I strongly recommend when there's showings, you should leave the home. Okay, I know it's hard with the dog, but if you can, I think it'd be really great if you can get out. Think about if you went to go look at a home and the homeowner's there, it's awkward, right? You try to get out in 5 minutes, you feel like you're inconveniencing them. What happens is you don't get a chance to fall in love with the house, right? So it would be much better for you if you're out of the home, okay? On that note, we'll talk about the appointment process, how you get notified. You'll have lots of notice, and if you don't get enough notice, we can always, talk about how we handle that, but it would be best if you're not there. Valuables. Knock on wood, never had it happen in over 20 years, but it's better you don't have things out that might entice somebody. Now, keep in mind, anybody who walks to your home will always have a realtor with them. So the realtor's going to notice if they try to steal your TV. So it hasn't happened before, but don't leave out your, fancy watch and jewelry and things of that sort. Okay. Now, this part here, everybody's going to tell you they negotiate very well. I'll come back to this when we get to our bio as to why I think I'm going to be better than some of the other people you may be interviewing. Okay. Now this part is really important to you. What ends up in your pocket? After all this blabbering, you're going to want to know what's in your pocket, right? So I've mentioned here a few things that you might not have thought of. You've got legal fees. One of the big ones is going to be mortgage fees. I want to make sure that you've contacted your bank, find out what the penalty is. Are you able to get out of this mortgage? Are there going to be additional costs? That's a very important one. We want to know ahead of time, okay? Disbursements, adjustments, these things you're going to learn through the lawyer, but these are things we want to consider as to what ends up in your pocket. And because I'm a bit of a nerd, I've given you a sheet here that as you get this information, you can fill it out. So here you'll put in what you think you're going to get for the home, your mortgage balance, any penalties. These adjustments you won't know till closer to closing, but those you can put in. And then the real estate commission, and I did mention there's HST on that. I don't want you to have any surprises on closing, so that way you know exactly what ends up in your pocket. All right. Now, as I may have mentioned, we do have a team, okay? And I want to point out, we're not one of those teams, some of the guys on the billboard that show up, get your signature, and then you never see me again. So I want you to know that that's not the case. You will get me, I'd say about 80% of the time. The reason I say that, I don't work on Fridays, okay? And I don't expect you to remember that. So if you contact me on a Friday, you'll get a call back or a message back from one of the team members. If it's an emergency, of course, I'm there. Otherwise, you'll hear back from me on Saturday, or the team may handle it for you and you don't need me. They're pretty darn good, and we'll go from there, okay? Open houses. I don't host the open houses, usually a team member or somebody from our office as well. Other than that, I'm working 24/7. Unless I was sick, my kid's sick, I'm on vacation, and I don't do that till the winter time anyways, and it's not a lot. So you're gonna get me most of the time, but I want you to know about the team. Natisha is the one person that you will get all the time. So she's the backbone of the team. She does all the work. We just show up, wear nice suits, and talk at the table, right? But she's going to be doing a lot of the stuff in the background, helping you with getting things ready, like getting the spare key, getting your property taxes, things of that sort. Okay, so there's a bit of a bio about myself. Hopefully you had a chance to read this. I don't want to bore you reading the whole thing, but I've got over 20 years in the business, right from front desk, to management, to sales, everything in between. Now, this line here, I've written this more than once and deleted it. It's a bit cheeky, and it says, why hire the student when you can have the teacher? So it comes off a little bit arrogant, but I want you to know why I put that there. I am not good enough to have the experience that I have on my own. The 8 years that I had as a manager in an office that sees 2,000 to 3,000 deals coming over the desk, I couldn't do in a lifetime. More importantly, every complaint, problem, issue that came up, I had to handle it. So I've got 2-3 lifetimes worth of experience in that 8 years that got crammed in. So I'm able to, if we go back to the page about negotiations, I'm able to prove to you from my experience that I can do an above average job. Okay, so I'm also certified to have taught agents in regards to negotiations, different courses, things of that sort. So I do believe that this is something that's going to be beneficial. Okay, now, in here you'll see I'm a little bit human. I do have a 6-year-old son, I've got a wife. The rest of it doesn't happen anymore. I used to play sports, but there's no time for that because we're always selling real estate. Okay, there's Jacob, Danielle, Prashant. So you've got some of the team members in here. Just in case you get a call from them on a Friday, at least you've seen their face before, you know who they are. I only keep people on the team that are like us, so they're absolutely wonderful, if I think I'm wonderful. There's Natisha. Heather, so this is my wife actually, she helps out with some of the staging if she works. She doesn't work too much, but if you do see her, she'll help out with some of the staging. Okay, now we get to the show-off page. This one here, it's always a difficult one to talk about because I'm, telling you how great I am, but I'll explain to you why it's important to you. Okay, so you'll see we're top 0.42% out of about 80,000 realtors in the GTA. We're very proud of that. Top 5% in Canada for Royal LePage. So what does this matter to you? We're full-time, we're working. I know the market. I'm not watching CP24 to know the market. We're the ones that know what's happening. So we usually have an idea, okay, the wind is changing because we have so many listings. To give you an idea right now, we have 16 to 18 listings. I know every week what's happening in the market. That's why this is important to you. Not because, hey, look how great he is and he has awards on his wall, but it shows you that we know what we're talking about. Okay, now these are third-party stats. We do sell for a little bit higher than average, okay, and we do sell a bit faster. I love this stat. It's not a huge number, but about 12% more than average, we bring our own buyers. Remember I told you I can prove that we're proactive? How do I find my own buyers? Because I actually do those things that I told you. Otherwise, how would I get them coming to me? So we are actually spending the money on the marketing, we are going and knocking the doors, we're doing all those things. That's why we tend to get buyers more often. Okay, now a little bit more showing off. We do great on social media. This page is important to me. We didn't always have what we have today. So we're blessed to be in this position and we always want to give back. This award here goes to one realtor in Mississauga a year, and it's for giving back to the community. And I believe it was in 2021 that I received this award, and it's very important to me. And then we do give back to our local women's shelter, as well as McMaster Children's Hospital. That hospital has done wonders for my son, so we used to only give to the shelter, and now we split it between the two. Okay, and then we do also work with the Mississauga Arts Council as of the last year. I think it's really great. We want to help out the youth. And on that note, Jacob is actually at the dam. He helps out the youth in person. So we like to do what we can to help, the youngsters also, have a better chance in our community. Okay, so more showing off. We can skip all this. We continue courses, so we're up to date. Lots of reviews. Check on Google because these I could have made up. The ones on Google I can't, but you get some ideas on some testimonials. I even got one.
Testimonials.
You know what? We are almost at 150 on Google, and I'm really proud of it. So whether you list your house with me or not today, I'm going to send you a link, and you can tell them how great I was. Okay? Now, I've even got one here from the CEO, which is really cool. Staging. So this is something I feel we're very good at. We're very passionate about this. I've got some examples here. This house, you would think that we painted it and remodeled it. There is absolutely nothing other than we did change the handles on the cabinet doors. I can't lie. That was $30 from Amazon. Otherwise, this is the same house. This is what a difference it makes. Now, 2 guys living here. There was no lady in the home to help them keep it clean. I'm not allowed to say that in 2025, but I'm not judging them. This can't sell. Yeah. So now, we took this all off their plate. We came in with our movers, we were in track pants and work boots, and we moved all this stuff, whether you need to go to the garbage, to their garage, to storage, to whatever you need. All we asked of them, different color Post-its, so we don't make a mistake. So we knew where to put their stuff, and we turned it into this. And we got the highest price in the complex ever. So it does make a big difference. Okay. This one had a couple renos. On that note, we have really good contractors and professionals if you need. We were able to get it done for a very good price, and again, we broke a record with this house. Okay, so I know it sounds a bit overwhelming, but these things are what gets you more money in your pocket. Now this goes into a little bit more detail about the marketing we talked about. You can look that over at a later time. I was a director of the Mississauga Real Estate Board. So much about me. Let's get back to what you want to know, which is your home. Okay, so let's get to the potatoes and the meat in here. You'll see I got some information on your home. Okay, so there it is right there. I can see that you bought this. Where was that? So right here. So you bought that September 8th, 2006, right? We bought that for $104,000. Pretty darn good price. Mm-hmm. I think that's worked out in your favor. As you likely know, because you call me in Meadowvale, I know Meadowvale very well. We're usually number 1, or at least in the top rankings in Meadowvale. Regardless, I pull all the stats. So this right here is telling us who lives here. What is the age? Are they married? Are they divorced? What kind of jobs do they have? What are their backgrounds? We're not just marketing blindly. We want to make sure we're going after the people who are actually in a position to buy your home. Okay, so we're done our homework. On that note, you'll see here, I usually have my hood queue. You see I have everything within 20 minutes of walking. We know the neighborhood. I didn't include it here because I lived here. I know all these trails. These are the parks that I went to, the schools I went to, but we know the neighborhood. Okay, now, here you get an idea of what has been selling. Okay, now, it's very important for us to look at sold. Sold is what tells us what your house is actually worth, because that's proof what a buyer was willing to pay in today's market. Active is important because that's our competition. But a listing price doesn't really matter. Somebody could have listed a house like yours for $1, or they could have listed it for $2 million. Mm-hmm. It's what are they able to get that's important. But I've included what's on the market because that's our strategy. Okay, so now let's say there's a home that is superior to yours, and they've listed it for $50,000 less than what you're going to list for. That's a problem. So we may need to make adjustments either in our pricing, maybe wait for that house to sell. We need to talk about it. So those actives are going to tell us what to do with our strategy, not what our house is worth. Now let's say we get lucky and there's a garbage house next door and it's priced $100,000 more than we want to list. I'd say we go in $90,000 instead of $100,000. We're a little bit cheaper than them, but our house is better. So you see, that's where these actives are important from our strategy. But this ultimately is where we got to keep our eye, is what the house is actually going to sell for. So you'll see there's a bit of a difference. The solds, we're averaging in around $565 for this condo, whereas what's on the market is $605. So now I've included those and we'll go through them. I've got the listings here for you, and we'll see why are these ones selling and why are those ones not. Okay, so that's very important for us to look at. So are you surprised when talking about this price here? This is about where we'd be looking in regards to the price for your house.
No, not really. It's I mean, I see what they're listed for.
Yeah, you're paying attention, right? Yeah. That's a nice thing with today's day and age, is you can see all this online. Yeah. You've got the app, so you're not really surprised. Now, we'll do our best to get you a little bit more if we can, and I'll explain to you why I think I can get you a little bit more for your home. Okay, so the one that sold for $565, I've actually been in it. Okay, so that was unit 605. That one there needed a lot of work. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to do the full walkthrough, but at first glance, I've gotten to see that the impression is better than that unit. Okay, so that's where I think we might have a little bit of luck getting a tiny bit more money. Not a ton, but I think we got a good chance there. Okay, so I'll point out here, this one had 2 parking. You have 2 parking as well. All the photos are here. Okay, I'm gonna leave this with you. You can go through it. If you'd like, I can send you a digital copy. Sometimes easier to see the photos versus the small ones on here. Okay, and then last but not least, got a guarantee here. the guarantee is not that I'm going to sell your home or I'm going to do wonders, is that you're going to be happy. If you're not happy at any point, let us know and we won't hold you to any contract. I do ask, it would be best if you gave me a chance to fix something if it's wrong, but if you decide you don't want to and you just want out, we'll let you out. There's no commitment there, but I think you're going to be happy. It's very rare that that happens.
Great.
So, did you have any questions? No? Okay, let's do a walkthrough of your home. Then we'll get into the questions. So I went through it a little bit faster than I usually would have because I didn't want to keep you guys here for 2 hours. You'll notice that when it came to the commission, I don't go over it quickly, but I also don't sit on it for too long. And I find that's been a huge change for us, that people, it's us. It used to be me who was thinking about it, not them. Right? And even some of the, let's say somebody is coming back at us on it. It's going to be usually very minor, right? It's going to be, oh, is there anything you can do? No. And I'll let you continue with your questions because that's probably going to come up and then we can get into it in more detail.
So I don't have questions. Actually, I do have some questions that I'll get into, and then we'll go through some of the objections later. So, okay. So, this one you already answered. You didn't get into promising a sale price or a price. But do you, when you recommend a pricing or a pricing strategy, how firm are you on that? Do you ever get into oftentimes in a listing presentation, if they're expecting more, it almost feels like a negotiation at the presentation.
Yeah.
So do you ever get into what you are pretty certain it will sell for, or how does that conversation go?
For sure. And then what I might say to them is, look, Jason, end of the day, I'd love to get you more money. The more money I get you, the happier you are. The more money I make, the happier the neighbors are. I'm going to get more business. If I sell your house for a crappy price, none of the neighbors are going to like me or call me. It's in my best interest to get you the most. At the same time, I don't want to tell you a price and then come back with my tail between my legs and then be like, sorry, it didn't work out. That's not the relationship I want to have. Now, if you want to try a little bit higher, I'm not against it. We're willing to work, we're willing to try, but we have to have an understanding that we've had this conversation so you don't come back and say, well, Pinder, you told me we were going to get this amount and now we didn't. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you, I think we're probably closer to that 550, 560 for this condo. If you want to list it at 580 because yours is better, I don't mind. But the market is a bit soft right now. We're probably looking at that 550 range. Yeah. So if you want to try that, we can. But then I don't want you to be upset with me. I don't want to just tell you what you want to hear. Okay.
Do you ever have anything, I'm going to use the term, I don't even know if this is a real term, but I have something I call interest metrics. Right? So, and I'm going to use it two different ways here. So the first way is when you are on the market. Mm-hmm. Do you talk about interest metrics, and by that it's like how many people are interested, how many people are looking at it on realtor.ca, how many appointments are coming through, how many people are coming to the open house? Do you get into discussions about what those net metrics should look like for the listing?
I don't. I think it's a good idea. I have in my mind if that did come up. Mm-hmm. For me, general rule of thumb would be if I've got 10 showings and no interest, I think that's something we need to talk about. Do we need pot lights? It's dark in there. Are you smoking in the house? No, everything's fine. Well, then it's probably the price. Yeah. I'd say in today's market, 30 to 45 days. Mm-hmm. If we're not getting anywhere, we need to talk about a price adjustment. I don't have that conversation necessarily up front to tell them, hey, if after 10 showings, you better have an offer, or we have to reduce the price at this time. Yeah. But I have that in my mind.
So another interest metric's not about the listing, but about your potential seller. Do you have any, I guess it's not a metric, but a cue. Do you ever take notice of any cues where you think, I should be closing now, let's get this signed? They're definitely interested.
You know what? No. So I'm terrible that way. There's no paperwork prepared. I'm not there to sign. Even if you said to me, you know what, that was great, I'm ready to go, can we sign? I would let you know that, you know what, I haven't prepared that. I didn't come in here with an expectation of a signature today. Why don't you sleep on it, think about it, let me know if you have any questions. We can talk tomorrow. If you're still interested, I'll drop the paperwork and I can send it for signature.
So you don't come in with paperwork ready to go if they're ready to go?
No. So really backwards from a sales 101, we're very passive and very laid back. Even on the way out, I'll let them know, by the way, I'm not going to be contacting you after today. We had a chance to decide whether we liked each other. I do like you and I think we'd work well together. But I wouldn't want to be bothered if I was in your shoes. So I'm going to go back. If there's anything I promised you, any homework, I'll send that to you. But otherwise, I'm not going to contact you. I don't want you to feel like I ignored you or I don't care. I'll leave it in your hands. You let me know how you feel about it.
So at that point, do you think it's important to make it clear that you want to work with them?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes in there too, to be like, I've made that decision, is subconsciously important is that I'm not just taking everything. I want to make sure they know, like, I'm not desperate, right? And that's in the body language, I'm not here to get a signature. You let me know. Even if you want to go, I've said think about it, which is so counterintuitive from a sales perspective. Why don't you sleep on it? If you still feel that way tomorrow, I'll draft up the paperwork and send it.
So you're planning on a second visit then?
There will always be a second visit. So the second visit for us is more of a walkthrough because now we do all the staging in-house. So now it's us who's going to come through. It's not a third party that's going to come and figure out the staging, so I have to come through again. At the end of that formal meeting, we would have gone walked around the house. I've got my notebook here somewhere. It's in my office. I'm usually at least a page or 2 pages of notes. That's something that I felt, it's just my personality, but I felt clients are really paying attention to that. They're like, this guy's really like taking a lot of notes. I've got a laser measurer. And maybe that's probably the closest thing to a soft close that I might do. I'm already going around measuring all the rooms with you as I walk through, right? So there is a little bit of subconscious there, like, okay, we're moving forward. But I've made like good solid 2 pages of notes. Where was I going with that? Can you circle me back? Where were we?
I wasn't listening.
Getting signatures, yeah, on the second walkthrough. So I've done that first walkthrough for all my notes and measurements, but I haven't now decided what furniture am I moving, what are we bringing for staging. So there's going to be a second walkthrough as well. But I find most of the time, like, we're doing DocuSign anyways, so that second visit isn't necessarily for listing paperwork.
Yeah.
It's more for what are you decluttering? And for that, I tend to, we'll go around taking photos, and I'll tell the client, don't worry, these are for our personal use. Even if you're in it, the house isn't perfect. What I do is I'm going to circle and make notes on these pictures, and I'm going to text them to you. Oh, it'll make your life easier. I've circled this painting, remove that, remove this picture, clear this, take these magnets off the fridge, and I'll just text it to you later. So that's my photos, and then notes, and I'll send them a note. These are the things that we're going to do for staging.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the second walkthrough, but it's not usually for paperwork.
Okay. In the scenario that we just ran through, you had mentioned it was more of a cold call. So I had seen an advertisement or your sign. And obviously that's a lot different than a friend or a repeat client or referral calling you. So in my business, or when I was selling, I almost never had a cold call. Okay. Most of it was people that I knew or had been referred to me. Do you always assume you're competing with somebody else? And part two,
okay.
If it's a repeat client or somebody that's been referred to you, it's a little bit warmer, does your presentation look different?
Very good question. So I always assume I'm in competition. I don't ask necessarily, but that's always in my mindset. But the opposite side of it can sound arrogant, but I think it's just more confidence. It's more mindset. I've already felt like it's mine, right? So before I walk in, I'm like, I'm getting the listing, right? If I got this far and I got the call, it's mine. But I'm not overly cocky thinking there's nobody else that could take it from me, right? So I'd say I'm kind of like 95%, I'm getting it. But 5%, hey, there are 70,000, 80,000 other realtors they could have called. Make sure you're on game, right? Like, don't get lazy, and that works into the second half of it. There was an agent actually at this office when I was managing. He was hitting a kind of a glass ceiling, and we were talking, and he's like, I keep hitting this number, and I can't seem to make more than this commission. And we talked a few different times trying to figure out what it was. And we got into it, and his business was like yours. He's like, oh, it's, guys I play hockey with. It's, people I know all the time. These are the guys I grew up with, and this circle feeds me. Okay, so what's your listing presentation like? You mean listing presentation, right? Like, so what does it look? Where's this thing, right? He's like, I don't have one. I brought some comps, maybe a CMA. Okay, how are you dressed? I don't know, like a button-up and jeans, and okay. Do you have a beer? Well, yeah. Okay, so you get all those listings, right? Yeah. Do they ever refer you anybody outside of the circle? No. Did he say, hey, Mary at work was talking about real estate? No. Why? Because it's fine, we're buddies. But do I trust you to be in front of Mary and make me look good? That when I go back to work tomorrow, she's not gonna be like, who's this joker you sent me? Right? Now, he may not know that, hey, I'm gonna go in a suit that day and I'm gonna be more, polished, but he doesn't trust me now to go to Mary. So I think it's really important, whether it's a friend, family member, and I've had it. Friends been like, buddy, take off the suit. We don't gotta go through this, let's have a drink. And I'll tell them straight, listen, right now it's business. You're saying because we're friends, it can be a little bit more easy, right? Because we're friends, I owe you even more. Imagine I did a better job for a stranger than doing a better job for you. That doesn't make any sense. So let's do this. I'm gonna go through it with you properly. After that, I promise you I'll take off the jacket, we can have a couple beers and kick it. But I have to be professional with you and go through everything the same way I would with any other client. So I've actually had that conversation with friends who are like, stop it, you're being stuffy. No, I have to make sure that I do it just as good for them as I would for anybody else.
What's this? Pinder said something to me the other day, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Very important. There was a specific listing that I think of with that example, and these two very particular men, and they told me straight up, we're interviewing 4 other agents. And I was like, okay. So he had, one of the gentlemen actually sent me some photos. He's like, before you come, I've done a lot of upgrades. I want you to know that the house is, different than what you think. Great. I actually took those photos and I made one of our feature sheets. And so I remember I come in and I go through the whole presentation. At the end, they made the decision on the spot. They're like, okay, we're gonna work with you. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder. And I asked him, it's one of the few times I asked because I was kind of intrigued. I'm like, so why did you pick me? And he's like, the way you're groomed, the way you're dressed, your presentation, this feature sheet you made. And he's the one that said it to me. He goes, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. We know you're going to do a good job selling our house. And so that's how I justify my Harry Rosen budget to my wife. Babe, I need this $5,000 blazer.
Okay, just a couple more questions and then we'll run through it again. So in the presentation, we got into some comps. And one of the questions I get is, well, it's a multi-level question. How many comps do you choose? How far do you go geographically from the property? How long ago in the past can you go for comps? What other criteria are you choosing for comps? In addition to, are you just showing sold? You showed that you were showing sold and available. Do you ever get into terminated, expired, canceled? So essentially, how do you choose your comps?
ChatGPT. Yeah. No, I'm joking. I'm seriously joking. That'd be terrible. So for me, it's going to be areas probably first. Right after that, it's going to be the type of home, right? So those are the top 2 things right away. What I tend to do is I'll search the subject property to see when it's sold last. If you go through my notebook, it's almost always the same. So I'll write down the address, I'll write down the previous MLS number, I'll write down the neighborhood there, right? So, okay, Peel, Mississauga, Meadowvale, and then I'll write down, okay, it's a townhouse, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,100 to 1,500 square feet. So I'll get kind of those first 5-6 points that I need in general, and then I'll do that search of what is sold. Excuse me, now we're talking time. So it has to be within the year, first of all. So I usually start with a bigger net. So I'll just put in this last year, now on Realm, when you go to an active, you've got that little sliding bar at the bottom. So I just put it all the way to the end and it shows me all of 2025. I'll hit submit. Change it to sold. So now I see all the solds, there's 23, 43 of them, right? I'm not using all of those. From there, I'll now narrow down my time. So I think anything more than 6 months is usually way too long. And then I'll look at the current market. So the market right now, I don't think prices from 6 months ago make any sense. So I'd probably be looking in the last 60 days, excuse me, in today's market. Now let's say I get enough data, so coming back to part of the question was how many comps? I'd say I don't like to have too many. So I don't want to have more than, let's say, 5 or 6 solds, 5 or 6 available. I think after that it gets a little bit too overwhelming. So I'll try to narrow it down that way. And if I still got too many, that's where then I'll start to narrow down even more. Now I'll go through the photos, see which ones, what do they look like? Okay, does it have, I don't know, finished basement? Does it have the ensuite? And get into more specifics. But yeah, I'll start with area, type, 1 year, 6 months, 2 months, then narrow down specifically on those. I don't include expired, suspended, or terminated in my CMA. I will look at them because they're important. And it's really important, something we didn't talk about, but I do a separate spreadsheet. So in here from Realm, you get the averages page that it makes for you. Where is it? Of course, now I'm not going to find it. There it is. So you get this page. And I don't like it. In the old Stratus, it used to be a little bit more detailed, and this is kind of not very detailed. So I actually put in each of the comps into an Excel spreadsheet, and I find that it's a little bit more detailed. At that time, I will actually change the days on market, because I'm looking back at the expired, terminated, and it's not 23 days on the market, it's been 168 days on the market. So that activity, first of all, gives me a better visual. It's more detailed, but then I'm giving them true stats, that this has actually been on the market for a year and a half. I may print those terminated or expireds and have them on the side. I don't have them in my package, and I don't have them in my CMA. Especially, I don't want to get caught where they say, oh, but Mary's house down the street. Shoot, I don't have Mary's house in here, right? But like, oh yeah, I knew you were going to talk about Mary's. Here's here's what happened, and this is why. That one did sell, didn't sell, why it's like that. So it's important that I know about those, but I don't have them in here. A, I don't want to focus on those. B, it affects my averages. So now all of a sudden all my numbers and my comparables are affected by houses that weren't in price points that made sense. It's either too much or too little. It's impacting it in a negative way. So.
All right. My last question, I'm just going to label as advice, and I'm not going to ask it now. I'm going to save it for the end. We'll run through it the second time now. Mm-hmm. So if I forget, just somebody remind me to ask for advice at the end, and we'll run through it a second time. So these are my tougher questions.
Okay.
So now I'm going to ask all my children. If we're at a point in the listing presentation, we obviously don't have hours, so don't just jump in with 50 questions, but if we're at a point and you think of something that you were asked or you were objected to during a listing presentation, feel free to call it out, and we'll drag Pinder into deep water together. Okay, so we won't do the whole intro, but I'm just going to lay these out here.
Yes.
Is there any way that's not too much trouble to put your listing presentation on the screen so we can see what you guys are talking about?
I can actually send out the link through Jason or Alex. We have a digital version of this.
Yeah.
I can send that out.
Put it up right now?
No.
I'm just not ready for it.
Okay.
I didn't bring the laptop or any of the wires or anything of that sort. I have no issues sharing it. The office does something really cool in marketing. I don't know if you guys have used it before. They do a digital flip book. You can send them a PDF of something and they'll turn into that. So we have that for our buyer presentation and listing presentation. So I can send that link through Alex or Jason, and you guys can see it. There's no secrets. Yeah,
Okay.
to be honest, without names, there's somebody that was a giant in our office, and I had the pleasure of going on listing presentation with them. And I remember seeing it, and I finished, and I'm like, that was a canned Chris Leader presentation, right? And it wasn't anything spectacular. I think the importance was being confident, knowing your stuff, knowing your material, right? Knowing this person I'm thinking of knew every house, right? So when they brought up, oh, but the neighbor's house, yeah, but that one had this and this and that. That's what you're talking about, and that's where the skill was. It wasn't that this was so amazing. So I'll share this with you guys. I don't want you to get caught up in, oh, it has to look sexy and it has to look like Pinder's for it to be successful. It doesn't. This is probably a combination of Chris Leader, Richard Robbins, and a little bit of Roy LePage as well, when we used to have the Roy LePage listing presentations. So there's pieces from that. Even the pyramid and the commission page is from Alex, from a Meadowtown presentation they created. So, most of this, other than a few things that have happened over the years that I've added to it, isn't anything out of this world, but I'll send the link.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want me to kind of go from the beginning, or do you want to just do the objections and not have to like...
All right, I'll come up with some of the objections. We don't have to go through it all again, because I know we're running a little bit long. All right. Yeah.
With the commission, okay, so I'm like you, like I go in like 5%, but okay, it's like the last one I did a couple of weeks ago, I felt that I had to to explain that you could get it cheaper
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere? Like, you're not supposed to, I've heard, sort of insinuate that this is, everybody charges 5%.
Yeah.
Do we have to explain that, like what I did, I just said, now you could go to other brokers that would do it for less? I mean, do we have to explain that it's not cast in stone?
I do in that situation. I'm a little bit extra in that situation where I'll say, oh, 3.5, I know somebody will do it for even less. So I become a real jerk in that situation. I will. I've done it more than once. I'll be like, there's people who do it for free. I understand. You work really hard for your money, and nobody wants to pay more than they need to. What you need to understand, Lynn, is do you think that I'm going to bring some sort of value that is worth that money? If you don't, it doesn't matter what I charge. Right? So if after today you think I'm going to do a better job, I'm going to relieve some stress off you, I'm going to take care of things that you want taken care of that are making you hesitant about selling, am I going to do more marketing, am I going to make this experience better for you and put more money in your pocket, then you should take me on. But if you don't think I'm going to do any better than the person you mentioned who's doing it for 3.5, I think you should call them.
But he didn't bring it up.
Okay. So why are we bringing it up?
Should I could I just do what you did, just so
Yeah.
people, I charge 5% and not explain that you could get it cheaper? Because
I mean-
I'm just thinking.
So let me ask you, I'm going to put it to a different way. So if you go to the store, you went to a store to buy that sweater, right? Did the person that was checking in that sweater or at the cash, did they tell you that there was other stores that you could get it for a different price?
Yes, no.
I saw this store is like 10 off.
I guess I'm just thinking that we're not supposed to say this is it, but.
No, so
it's okay.
you are allowed to have your own business model. So you can have your own metrics.
So
We're not supposed to say that everybody charges.
Yeah.
yeah,
This is a standard.
and the truth is they don't, right? There's
Wrestling with.
There's
Yeah.
there's all sorts of business models. There's low percentage, there's flat fees, there's no fees, there's
So I don't have to explain all that.
no, you have your business model. So like
Yeah.
no.
Okay, just curious. 'cause-
All you should really be explaining is your worth and why you're charging 5%. And honestly, if they don't ask questions,
Yeah.
don't talk about it.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't do that, okay, I should not have
And
talked,
then
it
just
didn't
move past.
factor into it.
It's, what you're talking about though, in my opinion, is something that I used to feel too when Jason talked about how it was before I made the change. I was thinking about it too much. I was nervous about it. I had created a story in my mind before I walked in. They're going to bug me about my commission. Oh, I saw these ads. There's somebody in my neighborhood doing it for this. I had created the problem in my own head before it ever happened. And I'd go in there and I'm trying to read the body language. Oh, he made a face when I talked about the commission. But you know what, Jason? Okay, fine, I'll do it for 4%. And I was jumping ahead and damaging myself and not having the confidence that A, they probably won't say anything. Majority of the time, our clients aren't saying squat. And the few times they do, we've gotten so confident in why I charge what I charge. It's very quick and easy, and I'm sure in one of these objections we'll get into that, and I'll tell you the kind of things that come out. What's that?
If you don't, you'll run yourself out of
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I don't
killing
do
me.
it for any, I don't discount.
You know, on that note, like, it looked great on the surface. I'm like, oh, I'm grossing so much money, I'm doing great, I'm doing volume. And then you start to look at it as a business, and I was like, wait, what's my average cost per deal? How much time is it taking? And I started to realize, I'm like, what ends up in my pocket isn't enough to pay my bills. I've got great awards on the wall, and I've got these numbers, and I feel like a champ, and I look good on social media, but I can't make my mortgage payment. It's like, why am I making $300,000 to $500,000 and I can't pay my bills? It doesn't make any sense, right? So it's once I started looking at it as a business, even the same thing on the team, looking at the inner workings there, I wanted to be more generous. And then you start to look at it, and you're like, wait, I'm gonna lose money. Because we only look at what's coming in. We're like, oh, I'm going to make 10 grand. It's better than nothing. No, it's not, right? When I look at, okay, I'm only going to net 28% of that. Hold on. How about all those listings that didn't sell this year that I spent $4 grand on each listing and I'm out tens of thousands of dollars, right? Like, even right now, I have a client getting slightly off track. They'd call me up. They weren't looking to buy a house as a repeat client. They're like, oh, we just happened to walk by this house. We went in. We want to buy it. Okay, great. So put in the offer, got it done. And the father-in-law made a comment, was like, we were sitting there at the dining table calculating how much commission you're gonna make. First of all, that made me so enraged. I'm like, how dare you? Who sits there and calculates somebody else's income, right? Like, it's so disgusting. Anyway, and he's like, you didn't have to do anything. It is, it's disgusting, right? Like, I would never do that with any other profession, right? But anyways, and I told him, I said, you know what? That one there, he's like, you didn't have to do anything. It was so easy. I'm like, that's the one. How about the ones where it's taken me 2 years? How about the ones where I spent tons of money and now they went with somebody else? Yeah, I got lucky this time, right?
But you're also bringing like X amount of years of experience to the table for that deal.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I've got the father-in-law's house for sale and it's not selling. And we're gonna have to put it up for rent. We just had the conversation yesterday. I'm like, it's okay. He's like, but you spent all this money, Mike, it's okay. I'm like, remember that conversation we had? I had that easy deal? And, right? That one's not selling. I just paid for photos, video, everything for a rental for another property he has in Milton. And he called me yesterday as well. And he's like, and on that one, somebody called and they have a tenant for us. Should I rent it to him privately? I'm like, well, why would you pay me $5,000 if you already have somebody to rent it? And I reminded him, I said, so look on both of these. That listing that I staged, I did repairs, everything, I'm making $0. And this one, I just paid for photos and everything. We're not going to do the rental. So it evens out on the one that I did nothing.
So don't you have a clause in your agreement or anything like in your listing agreement, Schedule A, that says should the seller decide not to sell, that they reimburse you your costs?
I don't. Now, we've been having this discussion with the way that this year has gone, that we will likely implement that moving forward.
So I will tell you, I have it in mind and they don't fight me on it.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what, it's only fair. And I said, and I'm completely transparent. I'm happy to share with you the invoices of what I'm spending as I'm spending it, so you can see where all the money is going. And they're like, no, we trust you. We know you'll get our house sold.
Yeah.
And it's a non-issue.
Previous to this year, I think we've just been so spoiled, at least personally, that it wasn't really a problem. We sold almost everything we got. If we didn't, it was okay. We'll take time off of Christmas and we'll go back on the spring, and I was still going to sell it. This was the first year where we got like absolutely beat up on how many listings didn't sell and have come off the market. So now I do plan on that. And I shouldn't say this on recording. I mean, I plan on going 5.5% moving forward in the new year.
We'll edit that out in post.
Okay, yeah, please. Right, that's. No, but it is something that I'm thinking of doing for moving forward because I've lost too much money this year on that.
You can share.
Honestly, it's a one-liner. Like, I could even potentially read it out loud to you if you want, or I can send it to Jason. It's super important to have, and it's especially in the market we're in. Like, I put it in mine after I lost out on one.
I'm behind.
No, after I lost it out on one, and as Pinder says, like, we have families, we have things we need to pay, we have tax deductions, fees, this, that, you see money coming in, and you don't think about all the extra money coming out.
Thank you.
And it's like, okay, well, if I'm dishing money out, and my listing's not selling, how am I making money?
Yes, right.
So,
Yeah, no, it is definitely a good idea, especially with the things we're dealing with.
Okay, so instead of running through the whole thing again, I'm gonna do spots. Okay, one more question, then we'll go through.
One more question. So, Pinder, have you ever had any seller, they ask you, what about if you get your own buyer, which we so-called double end, what are you going to charge the commission?
Really good question. So it does come up a lot. And say it's.
So the question is, what if I find what if you have your own buyer? So what are you going to do to the commission if you have the buyer and the listing?
So I'd say, very fair question. Unfortunately, there isn't anything that we do. There is no break on that. Now, I'll explain to you why. If I took that buyer down the street and they bought another house, we would make 2.5%. And I just sit here and I'll wait till somebody else brings an offer on your listing, I make 2.5%. So I was going to make my 5% regardless, right? Now, that wouldn't be really honest, right? So you've hired me to try to find a buyer for your home. I don't want to get punished for doing a good job and finding that buyer. Remember, we talked about the proactive prospecting. So now here I am knocking doors, spending money on marketing, trying to generate this buyer. I've done a good job, and instead of getting the pat on the back that I need for doing that good job, you're saying, hey, I want you to make less. It just doesn't work, right? And I'd rather be honest with you. I don't want to be that guy where I'm not bringing buyers to your house because I'm going to make less money, right? So let's say you said, oh, I'll do it for 4%. So I'm going to make 1% less if I tell Joe to buy your house, but I make 1% more. And we're very big on honesty. So I'd rather tell you up front, I want to make sure I'm doing what's best for you and I'm working for you. And I want to be compensated for it, right? Otherwise, if I took Joe to another house, I would have made that money. So I don't think you want me working like that. I think you want us working openly, honestly, transparent, and that's why I would make that amount.
That's good. Love it.
We used to. I used to have it in my listing presentation. You know, if you're buying as well, we'll do it for this much. If I find my own buyer, I'll do it for this much. And it was like, what am I doing? I just gave away 10 grand before I walked in the door, right? And I believe what I said, because it's true. Like, you know, I did something to get that buyer. So why am I taking a hit? And you wanted me to do a good job, and I'm getting punished for it. It comes back to like, oh, but you sold it in 4 days. You know, you shouldn't make as much money. Okay, so I'll keep the offer in my pocket for another 30 days, and then yeah.
All right. So we're going to jump to the section where Pinder went through comparables and pricing. Right. So I've got a few questions where I'm gonna now's the objection.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
So Pinder, you're saying that the most recent sales are 565, right? And you're thinking you're going to get a little bit more for that. But my neighbor sold for way more than that in April.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we not, like, why are you cherry picking these?
Yeah. You know what? Very good point, Jason. It's not that I'm not aware of that. I think it was 804 that it sold for that amount. Now, I didn't include that here because, as you mentioned, that was in April. So what I can show you is month by month in 2025, the market has gone down on average.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there was 2 months where it actually crept up a little bit, but otherwise every month has gone down. We're looking at about 11.3% decrease from the beginning of the year till now. In some markets, we're seeing 5-10% in the last 2 months. So what sold in April is not going to be relative today. I would like that. As I mentioned to you before, the more money I get for you, the more money I make, the happier you are, the more business you send me, you're going to send me referrals, right?
Yeah, okay, but the problem is,
Yes.
I paid more than that. So I have to get at least what I paid for it.
Fair.
Not to mention what I've put into it.
Yeah. Very fair. I can't say that that's a wrong way of thinking. I would want the same. I don't get to control the market, right? And I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to tell you what you want to hear just to get a signature today. And then what's going to happen tomorrow? I got to come back to you, you know, as I mentioned before, with my tail between my legs and say, oh, you know, it's not working. You're going to be angry. It's not going to look good. Now we're going to be on the market. Now I'm going to ask you for a price change. We're going to stay on there. We're going to be having difficult conversations. You're not going to like the experience, and I'm not going to get you that money. Nobody can promise you that, and I assure you, I don't think my competition can get you April prices in November, December. Christmas is coming around the corner. You know, if you look at any of the reports for 2026, most are saying it's going to be stable or going down. The few positive things I've seen, we're talking 1 to 3% increase. Between now and January, we might see a decrease more than that. So whatever you think we're going to gain in the next few months, we may lose before we ever get there. Again, I'd rather be open and honest with you. I can't get April prices today in November. Unless something changes tomorrow, I'd be happy to list it for more and get you more money. But at this point, unless something changes in the market or the economy, I can't match those prices.
Okay,
Now,
so I'm losing money now,
Yeah.
right? So you got to help me out on the commission there. Like I can't do the 5%. I'm already selling for less
okay.
than I paid for it.
So you'd like me to share in the loss?
Well, that's not the way I want it.
So if I agree to that, what?
Aren't you still getting paid though?
For sure.
It's still, yeah.
For sure. But now, here's the other thing. Not that you care, but my costs haven't changed. Right? So what I have to put into the listing, the marketing, my movers, the staging, all those things, CRA. None of that has changed because I was generous. None of that has changed because of the situation you're in or the market. So I don't have that room there, right?
You know, so you bring up a point. So some of the comparables that you, or some of the history where you showed the before and after, right? Like the one with the, what is it, the frat house where they were,
oh yes,
it was really messy.
This one here, yeah.
My house is spotless. I've renovated it. It's spotless. You don't have to do all that stuff. So if you don't have to spend that kind of money, and I'm saving you money, isn't that good for you? Can we, if you don't want to share in the loss, can you share in the savings?
Well, let's take a one step back too. If you make money on the next house that we buy, do I get paid more? So I want a percentage. Your house goes up. I want 5% of the appreciation we see on that house because I helped you get that house at a good deal.
Well, I don't think that's related. What I'm saying is you're not going to have to spend money on staging.
Okay.
Right? So now that you don't have to stage it, you don't have to paint it, you don't have to fix, I'll fix the trim. Right? So if you're not going to spend that money, can we not reduce the commission by that amount? So instead of you sharing in the profit, I'm going to share in your labor.
Which I do appreciate. Now, I'll tell you this. The big thing for us, why we won't shift on it, so the answer is no. The reason is this, it's the integrity. So, as you know, you've called me because I've sold other things in this complex, in this building, in this area. All those people have paid 5%. So now, I can't show my face, look them in the eye, knowing that I charge them more than I charged you. Now, this is a little bit more personal than you probably want to hear. To me, it doesn't make a huge difference, not because I'm rich. I net 28%. Okay, so now if you start to do the difference, I give you a % off. How much does it change what ends up in my pocket after everybody else takes all their expenses? It's not a huge amount. I have no problem helping you out. The issue becomes, is now I'm lying to other people. I'm going around charging them 5 and I'm charging you less. That doesn't sit well with me. I can't look myself in the mirror. Now, the next thing everybody says, I won't tell anyone, right? Now, I picture it this way. Somebody broke into my office, went through my filing cabinet. What will they find? I need to be able to address that. If there is one of those 20 deals that shows something, I should be able to say, well, that's my, it's my niece, it's my nephew, this person's done 16 deals with me, or something that would make sense to anybody who saw it as to why I did that. Other than that, you'll see every one of our listings is 5%. So it's the integrity part. It's not about what ends up in my pocket. I can't do that to somebody else, knowing that that person last month paid 5% and you're gonna pay 4%. So just based on the integrity, I can't charge anything less.
Has that happened to you, Pinder?
Yeah.
This exact scenario?
For sure. Happens a lot, and that's where I have literally gotten into personally, listen, this is how much tax I pay. If you can get my tax to come down, you know, I'm thinking of a specific situation the guy got into. He's like, but how come Joe can afford to do it at 3.5%? So it's okay, I don't know Joe, but I'm gonna imagine he doesn't have a team, he doesn't have the resources that I have, okay? He's probably
Might have
doing
another job.
Yeah, which I wish I had too some days. So, you know, I was saying, so he's not doing what we're doing. So I'm gonna imagine, let's say he does 5-6 deals a year. So what is he paying, 20% tax? So I'm paying 54% tax. Then I'm doing all the staging, I got staff. You may not care, but I'm gonna break it down for you. I'm gonna make 28%. Maybe he doesn't have those costs. Maybe he's not making enough money that he's paying that tax. Let's say I was paying 25% tax instead of 54. That margin is the discount you're asking for. I'd happily give it to you. I'm not taking the money. It's not staying in my pocket. That's why I can't match Joe's. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe he's doing something right. But I'm not ending up with more money in my pocket than Joe is. Once you see everything I do and what I pay, I end up making the same thing as a guy who's charging 1%. The difference is your experience is gonna be better. I'm gonna take all this stress off you. I'm gonna do all these things instead of you, and I'm hoping I'm gonna get you more money because we're gonna do all these things. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't believe that, then I'm not the right guy for you. If you believe that I'm gonna do these things.
I think you're the best, but my house doesn't need a thing, so you're not spending that extra money on moving, staging, repairs, et cetera, et cetera. Like, surely you could help me out here, we're friends.
I can't. It all comes back down to that integrity, right? So knock on wood, we average about a deal a week. So this month, the last 3 people who just sold with me, what am I supposed to tell them? Your house wasn't as nice as Sandra's, so you had to pay more money. It doesn't fit well with who I am.
And stage, you didn't need to do any of that stuff.
I understand. I understand. Unfortunately, that is not something we can move on. I would really like to have your listing and work with you. If that ends up being the decision maker, I can tell you, unfortunately, there is no room on that.
I have an idea.
Yes.
Is there something that, this is off topic.
Okay, yeah.
For those people, I wonder if there's something that we can think of that you could do, like you're providing them with something extra so they don't feel like they're being ripped off in the sense that they're not using the same services.
I'm not saying that that it's not a good idea. It's just not something I would do, right? This is just, if you want to work with me, this is the cost. And it does come from a place of like, it's not, oh, I'm so great, this is what I charge and I'm the man. No, I genuinely believe we care. We care more than most. We do more than most. I'm bringing value, I'm doing these things. I think I'm worth it, right? And if I'm not, no problem, I'm not your guy, right?
You can also Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, would that not be a good time to use the, you know, if I can't negotiate my own commission,
Yes.
I'll negotiate the best price.
Yes. Yeah.
You can
I love
also
that
you
one.
can also make an argument that this presentation is talking about our most common tools, our most basic tools. So the staging is one tool in that toolbox, but every listing and every transaction is different, right? So we're inevitably going to have to go into that toolbox to choose another tool, right? And if I don't have the resources, I might not have access to that tool.
And Mira, if I can, I just want to say one thing quickly before you just prompted something. I've told clients too, is like, look, if transaction goes smooth, any agent can sell your house. What happens when something doesn't go well? That's when you need somebody who's got the experience that we have. So it's easy for you to say, oh, there's nothing that needs to be done to my house, the sale was easy, you made a bunch of money. That's if everything goes smooth. What if it doesn't go smooth? That's where you're going to want the guy who does the amount of deals that we do, has the amount of years and experience that we do, versus the person who does 3-4 deals a year. I think it's going to make a difference in that situation, right? Sorry, Mira.
And that's kind of what I was going to touch on, is it's not just the services that you're paying for. You're paying for the experience and the expertise, the training, the knowledge, the good and the bad experiences I've been through that are going to allow me to represent you better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say something similar. When you're speaking on your situation, your house is perfect, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to stage, you don't have to clean. But the way I negotiate an offer, if me and you're charging 1% and I'm charging 2.5%, we have the same buyer. Your price and my price, and when you negotiate and when I negotiate, is very different.
Yeah.
You don't leave money on the
It's
table.
what ends up in your pocket, right? And I've had it as frank as, you know, why are you worried about what ends up in my pocket instead of worrying about what ends up in yours? You'd rather I make less and you make less than, hey, Pinder made a little bit extra money, but hey, I ended up with more in my pocket. I think the concentration needs to be on what ends up in your pocket, not mine.
Yeah.
Right?
So I do something similar to what you do, like a seller net sheet, where I actually break down, okay, well, if we decrease, if you go with so-and-so, they charge you less commission. They're not as strong as a negotiator. They sell it for $20,000 more, what's more important to you?
Yeah.
I'm going to change the scenario for 1 second here.
Sure.
So instead of being a cold lead,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a repeat client.
Okay.
Right? So everything else is the same. I'm still losing money, right? You represented me when I bought this house.
Ah, okay.
You represented me when I bought. You told me to pay this price, and now you're telling me to sell for less?
Yeah. You know what? That is very fair. You know. And I gotta go. No, you know what? That's a frustration. You're not the only one. We're dealing with this a lot. If I could go back and I know what I know today, I would have given you different advice, but I didn't. So you're not the only one in this situation. Frankly, I'm suffering too. So we're all in this situation together. I can't go back and change that. Now, I know you'd like to get that same price. I cannot get you that price. So what we got to look at is, what is your motivation to move? If you don't need to move, let's not move, right? Because you're right. This is $150,000 less than what you paid for. After the expenses and everything else, you might be $200,000 less than what you paid for this house. I'm not, and I don't mean this to be rude, I'm not here, I didn't come ring on your doorbell and say, let's sell your house, right? You're thinking about selling. If you don't need to sell today, and you ask me, Pinder, should I sell today? I'll tell you no. But you've told me you're expecting, you know, another child, you need to move, you need to be closer to mom and dad. If that is something that's important to you, this is the situation that we're in. I can't change that. If that motivation is strong enough and you're willing to take that loss, we have to move forward. If you think you can manage without, no hard feelings, let's not list your home. But if your life circumstances are such, now we can look on the other side too. You are going to be buying. Whatever you're losing here, you'll eventually see in there, because you're going to get a good deal on what you're buying. I know that doesn't make it feel any better. It still feels really crap. I don't like these situations. I've been telling a lot of clients my nickname for the last year and a half has been Captain Buzzkill. And that's something I do actually tell my clients. I've been saying, I'm Captain Buzzkill. I get it. I can't change the facts. Right? I don't have a crystal ball. I wasn't able to know that this was going to happen. It's never happened before. I couldn't have known that. So I understand you're frustrated. If you're unhappy with me, that's okay. I get it. This is a situation. If the motivation is strong enough, let's move forward, and I'll do the best I can to get you the most money. And then we'll try to save as much money as we can on the purchase. If not, sit tight. I'll keep you up to date over the next, every few months, let you know if the market is changing. If I see a huge increase, I'll call you and say, hey, let's sell now. So you need to decide if your motivation is strong enough to be in this uncomfortable situation.
Okay. I can't find the page, but there was a page where you had a breakdown of costs. So you had the mortgage page, and does everybody remember that part where we talk about how much everything's going to be? So what? Yeah, the debts and the commissions and taxes. So I'm going to assume I'm going to get to that page, and I run the numbers, and I say, I don't have enough to pay all of this. Right? So it's showing here that I owe $800,000, and you're telling me to sell for $720,000. What do we do?
Say, call somebody else. Let me refer you to Jim. Okay, so we've gone through that, and you're going to say there's not enough money. Okay, so now that's something we're going to have to really look into. So if you don't have the means, whether that's going to be through a line of credit, whether it's a family member or something, you're going to have to talk to the bank and see if there's some way to bridge that. That's something we need to address before we list the home. Because I don't want to get you to a situation that we end up at closing and there's not enough money and then you're getting sued. I don't want to sue you. I don't want the buyer suing you. I don't want to have those problems. That's why I have this sheet here, is so you know ahead of time there's a problem.
Yeah.
This might change your decision whether you want to sell or not. Or you got to look at some resources. So we've had some clients who've been able to, get other funding. They've been able to get family to pitch in, something of that sort, and you can make that work. Great. If not, then yeah, it is a problem. We need to address that and decide, does it even make sense to list the home?
Okay. And are my tenants going to be a problem?
Yes. So the tenants will be a problem for sure. Now, the issue is by law, we can't kick them out. Okay. We can only kick them out.
Not even to sell, it's my house.
No. So in Ontario, the laws are very one-sided, unfortunately. And the only way we can kick them out is once we have an offer. The issue is, until then, the house isn't going to look great. The tenant may not cooperate for showings. We're going to have a challenging time. The other thing too is I usually can't stage the home. I can't enforce how I want the house to look. I can't make them clean. So we're going to have some challenges for sure. Now, it doesn't mean we haven't been able to do this before. What I'll usually do is, with your permission, I'll step in and communicate with the tenant. What I find from my experiences, the landlord and tenant are talking, it's not friendly, right? It's enemies. I come in, I'm a third party. I tend to have the personality which works very well with these tenants, where I come in, I'm soft, I'm not aggressive. It's just, look, we're in this situation, we need to sell the home. I'm not on either side. I want to make sure we follow all the rules and laws so that you are respected as we sell this home. In the meantime, I'd really appreciate it if you're able to be cooperative with me. Here's my number. We're going to stay in touch. I'll make sure you get your 24 hours notice. Is there anything you need from me to make this more safe? So we've had these conversations with the tenants where they end up liking me, deal with me, and the landlords called us and been like, thank you so much. They don't call me no more. They've been much more cooperative, and we've been able to sell the home. The caveat in that is I probably won't get you the same dollar as the perfect home down the street that's sold.
It hardly seems fair.
It isn't fair. Because the tenant doesn't care. A, they probably don't want to leave, right? They got market rent from 3 years ago. They don't want to leave. We're disrupting them. They're not going to be wanting to do a great job. Now, you use the word fair. I don't mean to be rude about it, but you've also made money. Remember, we talked about how much you bought this for. We're now selling it for this much. I still haven't taken into consideration, that's just appreciation. What about how much money you've been making from the tenant? Right, so this tenant's been paying down the mortgage, helping you make equity in the home. It's not something people want to hear from me, but you can't just have your wins and then have an issue when there's a loss, right? So this isn't a loss. What happens subconsciously, we're like, oh my God, I'm losing money. I'm selling for $30,000 less than the one down the street. But they didn't have $30,000 worth of rent in the last couple of years, right? So you are evening out. That is the negative part. Now look, I'm a landlord too. I've got a townhouse right now that looks like crap. I probably gotta go spend 10 grand on it. I don't want to. But I've also had wins in that house where I have to find the fortitude to go and spend that money and fix up that home. Instead of me worrying about what it's costing me today, I got to look at it's appreciated. I've refinanced that home. It's helped pay for my kid's school. It's helped get me a sports car. It's a pretty cool house. I could spend the 10 grand on it and bring it up to date. So you're in that same situation now where you got to weigh it out. Has this home been good to me where I've been able to eat off of this home? But now I got to take, a psychological loss because the neighbor's house sold for more, you're still winning, right? If we write this all down and do all the math, you're still ahead.
Okay. You talked about showings and you were going to get into showings. I work from home a lot. Is it okay if we do showings after 5, Monday to Friday? You can have all day Saturday, Sunday, but I'm busy, I'm on the computer. Could we do just evening showings during the week?
No. Now, I don't mean to be that blunt, but especially in today's market, showings are not as much as we used to have. You know, we used to have multiple showings a day. We're getting maybe a showing a week right now. If we lose those showings, remember, it takes one set of eyes. I need one buyer. That one buyer that we said no to could have been the one who would have bought this house. Okay, so we don't want to miss these showings. I respect that you still have a life, and this is still your home. And we need you to keep your job, okay? Because we can't get the mortgage on the next house if you don't have your job, so I respect that. Let's try to find an alternative. I'll talk to my manager. Otherwise, in my own office, I've got some space. If you're comfortable, we can find some space in my office. You can connect to the Wi-Fi, come in and work. We'll try to keep it down if you're gonna come work in my office space. We can work something out in that regards. But I think it's a very big disservice to yourself to reject a single showing. I don't think it's a good idea. Now, don't get me wrong, somebody gives you 10 minutes notice for a showing and you have to reject it, I respect that. But if you've got a decent amount of notice, call me. If I don't answer, contact Natisha and just say, hey, I'm stuck. Tomorrow's showing is at 2 p.m. What can I do? And we'll try to find you an option. Okay, but I want you to cooperate and work with us to try to make sure we allow every single showing while still keeping your job and being respectful to your personal situation.
Okay. You have me convinced, but there's one surprise I didn't spring on you yet.
Okay.
So I'm convinced, you know, you're professional, I trust you, you're charming, you're handsome.
Thank you.
But my soon-to-be ex-wife is going to hate you. She's not going to want to hire anybody that I want to hire.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do there because I don't want to hire anybody that she wants to hire.
Fair. Okay, so we come across this quite a lot. Real estate's a very emotional business. Okay, so I've gotten pretty good at this. It's super highs, super lows. What's happening? Somebody's getting married, they got a new job, had a kid. Or, unfortunately, going through a divorce, lost their job, gone bankrupt, somebody's died. So the point is, I deal with these things all the time. This is very common in our business. I've personally been divorced myself, so I'm very empathetic and understanding, and I find when I'm able to share my situation with the party who's not necessarily on board, they realize that I'm not the enemy. And I'm very fair in how I deal with things. And I'll tell both parties, don't tell me anything that you don't want the other one to know. I'm in the middle, I'm the referee, I'm gonna play this very fair. And I find once I explain to the other party who's begrudging, they'll usually bend and realize I'm not the enemy, it's you two who are fighting, not me, and that I have the ability to do this fairly and competently, and they're both gonna be happy. Now, in the event, I pull out all my superpowers that work 99% of the time, that doesn't work. And your ex really is as horrible as you say she is. And she says, no, I don't want to work with him. We could do something called co-brokering. So there's a certain form.
$650.
That's the one. You know, so if she picks somebody, you pick me, we can actually list it together so that way you're still getting me on board and we can have that other agent involved to make her feel comfortable. That's the worst case scenario. I'd prefer there's not two chefs in the kitchen. But we have done it before and we've worked very well with another agent and been able to get good results.
So I am out of objections, so it's up to you guys now. Do you guys have anything else that you would object to?
No, we love them.
Thank you.
Sorry.
We'll go here first and then Mira.
Pinder, you've done a great job showing the value of your presentation, and Jay's done a great job of just being an absolute gem of a homeowner. So you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Just working through there. Can you just let us know, like, how many out of 10 people, how many times are you really getting pounded on your commission when you've already showcased so much value to them?
So as time has gone on, I'm only hesitant because my answer today is probably maybe 1 out of 10 might bring it up. Going back, and it's funny, it's like when I was giving deals, I had a lot more headache than when I'm charging full commission. It was probably at some point like 7 or 8 out of 10. It was like the biggest thing I had to deal with going into a listing presentation. Not to sound corny, that's where I think that mindset is really important too. Although I tend to freestyle a lot of stuff, I've gone through this. Like I didn't prepare for today because I know if I flip through a page, you show me any page randomly, I'll start to spew it out and it'll sound exactly the same as you got it on camera. My confidence is there, my mindset is there that I am worth it. I am good at what I do, they are gonna wanna work with me. That shift for me has gone to like next to none, question of the commission. We have one listing now that I told myself I'd bring as an example. It was a referral. She called me up and she's like, you know, this is what I want, this is what I expect, asked me a few questions. And she's like, and we're not gonna pay more than 3.5%. I'm like, okay. And, right? And she said straight up, I will not pay more than 3.5%. I said, okay. I did my package. It was at their door within 24 hours. A couple days later, I get a call like, hey, I'd like you to come in and meet with us. Okay, no problem, actually just her. So I get there, I go through my presentation, and you see right at the beginning, first 5 pages, commission's there. And by the way, they've seen the commission before I showed up, right? They already know what I'm charging. And so I don't gotta say nothing. I get there, we get to that page, and she says, oh, so is there any room for negotiation? I'm like, no, unfortunately there's not. Okay. And we moved on. And I was used to, she told me she wouldn't do more than 3.5%, right? And it comes back to like, what are we doing to ourselves before we walk in that situation? She told me point blank she won't do it. I walked in and said 5, she was like, okay. And in that situation, actually, then she was like, okay, now I need you to meet with my husband. And you know, we went through the same thing with him. He didn't even bring up the commission. And then I had to meet his parents. I now see why the relationship didn't work, but you had to go running to mom and dad. So mom was the strong one, right?
Gatekeeper.
Yeah, right. And I get to the parents, and I'm waiting for the mom, and she's not in a mean way, but she's running me through everything else. What about this? What about that? I'm waiting for her to say something about commission. Nothing. It's very rare after we've shifted that it becomes an issue. And it's usually very quick. It's just, it comes down to that integrity. If somebody says, are you sure you can't do less? I'm like, I can't. We charge everybody the same. The issue becomes, it's not the money, it's the integrity. How can I charge you something different than I just charged somebody last week?
If I can add something, I know you're all here for Pinder, but I'm gonna add something anyway. Pinder had mentioned something about how many times he's done this, and you have to have lots of conversations. So the last time we did a listing presentation seminar, Alex was hosting Rob Kelly, who's part of this office. And one of the stats that jumped out at me in that presentation was that between 2005 and 2020, Rob Kelly averaged 41 listings a year, right? So that's 41 times he's gone through his listing presentation at minimum. And in that presentation, he said that he still would role play with people, he would still practice in his car. So he's probably, for that 15, 16 years, Alex, you can tell me if I'm wrong or misremembering, but he's probably going through these conversations hundreds of times every year, right? And I know Pinder does the same because he's training his own team, he's in here with you, he's doing tons of presentations with people, and he's, like I said, he's the highest volume team in our office by units sold. So if this is the tip of the spear that are practicing this kind of stuff over and over and over again, if you're not getting the appointments and the presentations, you should at least be practicing and finding people that you can role play, that you can do this stuff with. Which leads me to my advice card. I didn't forget. So if you were talking or coaching, or even if you were a new agent or an agent that maybe is in a little bit of a valley, they're not as busy as they used to be or want to be, what would you do to get in front of people? And then how do you get those conversations to an appointment? And how do you convert those into listing presentations?
Oh man, I hate that question.
I know.
It's a tough one. Somebody asked me this earlier before the presentation, and saying today my answer really sucks because I don't do much. It's very, majority is repeat and referral business at this point, and making a name in our geographical farm. So I'm not doing the prospecting, I'm not doing the things that I should be doing. I've kind of gotten to that point. But if I go back to what I would have been doing, so first thing was, I'd say, let me share a quick story. So I got back into sales, and my superintendent in the building I lived in said, hey, I got this guy in the building, he's renting and he wants to buy a condo in Meadowville. Thank you. On that note, if any of you guys work condos or townhouses, make sure you take Christmas gifts to the super. Make sure you know the board, the property managers, so everybody gets their bottles of wine and Christmas cards. So he says, this guy wants to buy something. I used Alex's golden buyer letter, okay? So the letter just says, I got a buyer who's looking to buy. One of the biggest tips in that one, by the way, is be specific, so it doesn't seem like a gimmick. They live here, they got 2 kids, this age, they go to this school, they currently rent and they want to buy. So it doesn't sound like a lie. A couple, solds in the building. I broke the rules, you shouldn't do this. I had no money, so I snuck in and I drop them on the doors. You should send it through Canada Post. And I ended up getting 2 calls, right? And the one guy, I showed it to my buyer, he didn't like it. He's like, well, I like you, I trust you, let's put on MLS. Sold that. The next one, I showed it to my client, he liked it, put in the offers, conditional. The deal fell apart. He wanted to extend the financing. My seller got pissed off. And he said, I'll sell it to anybody else for less. I'm not selling to your guy. Put it on MLS. Sold that one. Okay, now my buyer regrets it. Pinder, I still want a unit. So I go out of the building again. And I get a call on the ground floor unit. He's like, I'll take it. So I double end it. That seller says, by the way, I just saw an open house last weekend across the street for a townhouse. I'd like to buy that. And so this was within a month. Okay, and I've just gone back into sales. Alex, remember, I was scared. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I got all these deals. Now, I know that's a perfect situation that you can't recreate. But what did I do after that? So I made sure I started flyering the whole neighborhood, right? Just listed, just sold, created a newsletter. And that's where I decided to do my geographical farming. So it just kind of happened. I did a bunch there. I'm like, well, now I might as well litter the place. Now I got the next one. Everybody knows me. Get the bus shelter, do it. And we went crazy with the farming. So that was one thing. The other thing for me that's big till today is going to be social media. If you guys follow me, you know there's content every day. I slacked this morning. I didn't get one posted before the presentation. I try to make drafts ahead of time, by the way. Make a bunch and then just press submit when you get busy. Social media to me is super important. At that same time when I started, I'd make posts. I remember one, I took a cartoon of a businessman with 8 arms, and he had a fax machine, a phone, and a briefcase. And I was like, busy day today, from Mississauga to Milton, from Milton to Brampton, Brampton to Georgetown, back to Mississauga. It wasn't a lie. One of them might have been I was getting my tires changed, right? It wasn't that I was seeing buyers or anything, but it was looking busy, And one thing with a listing that we'll do, if you're following the rules and it's within the days and things, you might do a coming soon post. It's the same, and I'm not lying, it's the same template. All I've done is change the photo. Now I do the just listed. The template is the same. This is not complicated. I change the photo. Everything else is still the same. Now, a sold conditional. Change the photo. Sold firm. Now, people are not paying, I'm not lying, the address is there. But most people are not paying attention to that. All they're seeing is, dude, every time I go on, all I see is just listed, sold. You're just selling every house in the world, right? So it was very important to show I'm busy, right? So it was, even if you're not at the beginning, find a way to do it, advertise other agents' listings, create content when you're doing open houses, make sure you look busy. The people who are not working with you yet, in my opinion and my experience, is they're waiting to see that you're somebody. So at the beginning, your family and friends, you're waiting, you're like, why aren't they working with me? They're nervous. They don't know if you're gonna be great. Now they start to see 6 months in, they're like, the last 6 months, this person's been consistent posting, and they look busy, they look like they must have gotten good at their craft. You'll start to see those friends and family show up, whereas at the beginning, it was all strangers, even for me. Okay, so the social media, the farming, the young peeps on the team, they're out there knocking doors. When I first started, I was cold calling. I was telling somebody this morning, I used to cry. I would cry. It was terrible. And
it was my favorite memory, though.
And I got my first check. I was, 23 years old. I don't remember what it was. Let's say 12 grand or something, which was crazy. And I think I was making before that 20,000 a year, right? So I got half my salary in one check. I made a photocopy and I put it in front of my phone, and I had a real estate magazine with Sam McDaddy's face in a mansion. And I'd sit there in tears, I don't want to call. And I'm like, I need that 12 grand. I want to be somebody. Do it. And Cold calling we don't really do anymore, but you would do door knocking. And I was telling that person I didn't door knock because I looked like a baby at 23, and I was good on the phone. Otherwise, I think the door is fine. Open houses, right? At the beginning, I did a lot of open houses. I don't do them anymore because I'm spoiled that way, I guess. But when I got back into it, the open housing. The other thing too, I do a lot of condos. I remember there's an agent who used to work here and he used to do the same thing. And I will just show up to the condo. I'll get suited up. I'll go there with my laptop. I'll sit in the lobby. I'll wait for somebody to open the door, pretend to be on the phone. I sneak in behind them, sit down in the lobby. Not for long, 15, 20 minutes. I'll make a couple calls, send a couple emails, and leave. And what will happen is slowly, especially if you're dressed, somebody will come up and just be like, "Are you a realtor?" It's like nobody else wears suit jackets anymore, right? And I'm like, "Yeah. Oh, I don't want to sell, but what are the condos going for? Oh, well, they're going for this, they're going for that." And it's being visible, right? Like we joke, if you're at home, nobody's going to see you, nobody's going to talk to you, you're not going to make any money. Get out of the house, right? Go somewhere. For God's sake, walk around HomeSense if you want, right? Like, be out of the house and talk to people, right? So find that. And then what else? Birthdays on social media. Engage with people, like their posts, make comments. Little things, you will notice somebody has a baby. So you can see it on Facebook, you see it on Instagram. I'll go on to the Gap or Old Navy, and whenever there's a huge sale, I'll buy like 6 boys' clothes and 6 girls' clothes, and we have them sitting in the office. A bunch of gift bags and tissue paper from Dollarama. I see that post, bang, pick one of them up, it was $8. Here's a little card, and go drop it on their door, right? So there's 100 ideas. I think we could sit here all day as to how you can talk to people and interact with them, but just make sure you're finding a way. You know what, I'll end it with this. There was an agent I worked with when I used to be with the competitor when I first started, and she was a giant. And I remember I went up to her and I was like, "What do you do? How are you so successful?" And when she first told me the answer, I felt like it was BS. Right? I'm like, "That's a stupid answer." We all want this big, sexy answer of how I'm going to go kill it. They're not. They're all super simple ideas. You're just not doing it enough, or you haven't practiced enough to be good at it. So you got to do it. And she said to me, she goes, "I give out 10 cards a day." I'm like, "Just tell me you don't want to help me, right? When you're lying to me, don't call me stupid." And she's like, "I won't go home. I won't even have dinner." She goes, "My husband will call and be like, 'Hey, are you coming home for dinner?' 'No, I haven't given out 10 cards. And it's only once I started having to give out 10 cards a day, I realized how damn difficult that is. It's very tough to give out 10 cards in a day, right? So the point is, none of it's rocket science or difficult things. It's just do them and do them often.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I actually watched Pinder in action. And we used to sit in the building, and everything he's saying is, he hasn't even, like, everything he's saying is so true. He did everything that we're always advised, every speaker, Chris Leader, Buffini, our managers, he just did everything that we've heard, he actually did. I watched you doing it.
Thank you. And I'm not...
I knew you were going to go...
Thank you. And I mean this, I'm not special. I have the same 2 arms and 2 legs. And that's been my mentality getting to where we are today when I got back into it was, if so-and-so did it, why can't I do it, right? So it comes back down to that mindset again, was like, I can do it too. Maybe it takes me longer. Maybe, I have some hiccups on the way, but I can reach that goal too, right? So if I want to make chairman's, I want to make $1 million, that seems impossible 5 years ago, and all of a sudden we're like, maybe next year? Let's see, right? So you're right. I remember I filmed the video. He's probably in the room, but anyways, I won't call him out. There was an agent who was like, I got back into sales. He's like, "You did so well so quickly. How did you, do that?" And I took a video here one day, and I put it down on my laptop on the time, and I moved around the office, and it was like 12:30 at night. I said, "You wanted to know my secret, right? It's this. I want it more than you do, and I'm willing to work harder." And I remember talking to him later. I'm like, "It doesn't mean I'm right." I'm like, "You have a wonderful work-life balance. You've got a great family. You're at the cottage all the time, and you have savings you don't need to. I've just gotten back into sales. I need to do this today." Right? So that's another thing too. You guys have to look at what is your personal goals, what do you want to do, how much time do you want to invest in the business. But if you want to be at the top, that's it. There's no rocket science. The things that you get taught at the brokerage are the same things that I'm doing. None of it's changed. It's all the same stuff. I just do it 100 times and somebody else did it once. Right?
Thanks, everyone. So in closing, In closing, we had a miscommunication today and 2 people picked up a ton of donuts. So we weren't supposed to have this many, so help yourselves to some donuts. Pinder will stick around. Thank you, everyone.
I'm just going to use a bathroom.